mentioned some tectonic shifts over history, over the 20, 30 years we've been doing business, right?
Yeah.
What about today? What are those biggest tectonic shifts you see happening right now?
So during the pandemic, I caught COVID during Christmas season. And as I was sitting up in our guest room during Christmas time, I'm being the marketing nerd that I am. A lot of marketing experts were writing articles about their predictions for the new year. And so I went through and I found about 50 different sources of marketing experts talking about trends for the new year. And I built a spreadsheet and I put the trends that they were recommending and kept track of which ones were said how many times and predicted by how many experts. And I found a series of tectonic shifts. And then my aha moment came when I realized that more than half of those tectonic shifts that they were recommending, that they were talking about, those trends, they called them trends, not tectonic shifts. More than half of the trends they were talking about were part of one mega trend. They were things like generating 5-star reviews, things like working with influencers, things like getting referrals from your customers, right? All of those are part of one overarching strategy that I call credibility marketing. And the core problem that the businesses are trying to address is that 77% of our potential customers don't trust anything we say about ourselves. I don't know, maybe they trust the address we tell them, or what our phone number is. But when we try to tell them marketing information, 77% of them don't trust us. And the situation is even worse with advertising. 96% of people do not trust advertising. And so the old school business model, when I started business, right, the business model was you would create a product, then you would buy a whole bunch of ads, and then you would tell the world how awesome your product or service was, right? That model does not work anymore. 96% of people don't trust what you say. And so what is working today, right? I bet 70% of people who find your business on the internet and talk to you guys, before they sign up for your product or service, they go look at reviews on you guys, right? The reviews, the referrals, the video testimonials from clients, owning platforms like having a show like you're doing, speaking at events, providing value. So many people are providing value before they try to sell anything now. And think about the businesses now. They get a lead from an email, an email lead or a phone lead, and then they immediately go for the close and try to sell. And then they wonder why, only 0.2% of their emails result in a sale. They're going for the close before they've built any credibility. Anyways, there's a framework here that we call the credibility marketing framework. Customer influencers and becoming an influencer and industry influencers and event influence and leveraging platforms, online reputation management, employee influencers, these kinds of things. We've developed a framework, and then we went out and we found that 96% of people said that businesses who follow this credibility marketing framework, that they are likely to trust. So to go from 77% of people not trusting a business to 96% of people trusting a business with one simple framework. So that's what it's about, credibility marketing framework. I'm working on a book called Credibility Marketing, and trying to teach people how to market through much more credible sources.
So that's one of the tectonic shifts, right? But
yeah,
probably the overarching over a lot of them.
That's right.
Tectonic shifts.
You want to know some of the other ones? Is that what you're asking?
Of course.
Okay. So the second biggest one that's out there, which is actually a subset of credibility marketing, but I think it's number 2. And we call it platform ownership. I'll give you a story to give you an example of what the problem is here. So I have a friend, he was an intern at a company I worked at, and he created a product called the Scrap Trap. It was a little kitchen device you put on your counter, and you cut up your vegetables and your fruits, whatever. And when you had the scraps, you scraped them into the scrap trap and you could easily throw them away, right? Simple device. He was making about $110 million a year selling a scrap trap. Of that, about $96 million of his sales was coming from Amazon. So over $96 million of annual recurring revenue from one source, from Amazon. What do you think Amazon did when they realized the simple product was making $96 million a year?
Did they create their version of it themselves or what?
That's exactly what they did. They went to a supplier and they commissioned a similar product to be created. And then they put their product live on Amazon. And then what do you think they did?
They promoted it as Amazon, a top seller for Amazon, something like that.
Yep. Regardless how much he bid, theirs showed up at the top. Yep. And then all of a sudden, his listing was removed.
Oh, wow.
And he lost a $96 million annual recurring revenue stream because he built his business on a platform somebody else owned. He built a skyscraper on land he did not own. And so the second biggest tectonic shift that we teach people about is, how do you build your skyscraper on land you own? How do you build a platform you own? And that could be a website, that can be an email list, that can be a membership site, can be a show, right? There's lots of different ways to do this, but you have to build a platform you own. And you can leverage the other third-party platforms. You can still use Facebook and Amazon and YouTube, but you build your following there and you're constantly pulling people back to your platforms where you control the relationship. You have the client contact information. You control the brand, the URL. You have permission to market to them. You own the content. You can move to a different technology provider if you want, but you own your destiny. So the third biggest tectonic shift is this concept of the digital show. And a lot of what's driving it is the concept of multitasking. Like before, if you wanted to watch television, you had to sit down, you had to have time, be in front of TV, sit down, and generally not do anything else, right? You had to be looking at the television. If you want to listen to a podcast, you can do it at the same time you're driving in the car, right? You can multitask while you're doing dishes, while you're, exercising. It opens up a world of ability to consume entertainment or education that was not possible before. And so this multitasking ability of the online show has resulted in a huge growth. So in 2021, there was $1.4 billion of podcast ad revenue. And they're projecting that by next year, that revenue will have grown to more than $4 billion. 62% of the US population over 12 has listened to a podcast. And there's currently 162 million projected podcast listeners in the United States this year. That's growing at a rate of over 20 million listeners per year. So a huge opportunity for people to create online shows, and people are flocking to online shows. So it creates opportunities for people like you to create new media channels that didn't exist before.